Hello everyone, my name is Philip, and welcome back to Phasing Forward. Today we will be looking at episodes 5 and 6 of Marvel's What If. And those two episodes being What If Zombies. I kind of love that name, just like What If Zombies. No need to go any further, just What If Zombies. Just up in your face like that. I kind of love that title. And also What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. I am joined, as always, by Miss Zenith Warrior Princess. How are you going today, Zen?
What if Zenith Warrior Princess was an angry bun? And what if she didn't like the episodes that we're going to be talking about?
Guess that's as good of an intro as fucking any. So, yeah, today, and you know what? I should say this. There are some times on my mind when making this series, because we've been pretty fucking positive. Like, we loved WandaVision. We loved Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know you weren't around for most of that series, but like, I was fairly positive for the most part. Loki, we just like adored and we praised the ever-living shit out of. There are some times where I think to myself, I was just getting too used to Marvel and just praising Marvel and not looking for any any negatives in the episode. Are we just like blind to like negatives in these shows? Like, is that an us problem? And then stuff like today happens where like we realize, no, it's not an us problem. Marvel just has a pretty good, average batting range when it comes to producing good, like, high quality content, which makes situations like today kind of all the more awkward. So, yeah, let's we'll talk about the we'll talk about the Killmonger episode, of course, later, because honestly, that's the better of the two episodes, and it honestly isn't like, although apart from our issues, that's still a very enjoyable episode. But to get into episode 5, the big one that'll be like the big one that's been contentious, because essentially this one has been a very the reaction to this episode has been very split. There are some people who think it's okay. There are some people who hate the episode, and there are some people who I've seen who absolutely love the episode and think that it's like funny as hell, and that like it was like such an interesting like way to like take Infinity War, So let's just jump into our thoughts. I didn't really like it that much. I didn't. Now, I'll say this right now, because I'm purposely skipping over you, Zen, for the time being, because I know you have a lot to fucking say. So I'll give my reactions now quickly, because I know you're going to dive into it a little bit more. I didn't hate the episode, because I know, Zen, you hate it, but I didn't hate the episode. I thought that there were a bunch of things in the episode that I really honestly liked. Some things that you didn't like that I thought were great. Like, I really loved, and like always, just jumping straight into spoilers. There were several things I liked about it, like the whole Wanda and Vision thing. As much as I hate how they depicted Spider-Man in the first half of the episode, how they were kind of like talking about him and developing him in the second half, I really liked. I just thought that they should have handled, the whole him joking part a little better. So I do like moments with him in the second half of the episode. There are things in there that I am a fan of. It's just that, God, they really didn't know what kind of zombie story they wanted to make this. So, like, essentially, this splits off from Infinity War, which, for the record, is a pretty fucking serious movie. And it's essentially bridging Ant-Man and the Wasp and Infinity War, because those stories take place so close together. And it's essentially saying that what if Janet was infected in the quantum realm, and when she came out, bam, zombie apocalypse. And that's a really good jumping off place. That's honestly not where I thought that they were going to start this story. But from there, they try and have their cake and eat it too. They try to make this kind of like a dark comedy type of zombie story where like everyone's kind of an asshole and everything, and they just joke about everything. But then they also try to like take things seriously by the latter half and try to make it like an actual like scary, like threatening zombie apocalypse. And it's like it's such tonal dissonance, and we'll get into it more as we go on, but yeah, it just for the most part didn't work for me personally. Zen, what about you?
I have a lot of words for this episode. Before I get into that, I just want to say it is kind of a shame because for the most part, I was loving What If. Episode 1 is a bit of a weak point, but not too big a weak point. But then we get to these 2 episodes, and they're not all bad, but I hate this episode. I hate Marvel Zombies. Like, I don't really like the comics in general, but this is just really bad. And then the next episode we'll get into, I didn't really care for either, and I'm just like, it's a shame to me that half of this show so far is really damn good, and half of it is middling to I don't like it at all. And it really is a shame. We're gonna get more into this later. I hope that the next one, which is supposed to be Party Thor, is better. But okay, breathing. Angry Bun. Look, I'm gonna list some positives before I get into my rant, but I do like the premise. I do like the, Janet Van Dyne has the virus, and, it ties into Ant-Man, ties into that really well. I think the second half is better than the first half, and I think there are moments of hope, so it's not entirely dreary. There are some things that I like about how the characters talk about hope, but I hated 95% of this episode, and I didn't want to hate it. Like, here's the thing, my good friend Nash, I usually see his reactions to stuff before I watch it. He does things without spoilers, so I don't really get too spoiled, and he hated it. He likened it to Thor Ragnarok, and, he didn't like Thor Ragnarok. I do. I still think the tone worked. It was jokey, but it still earned its pathos, and I think it did a good job balancing it. Here, this was disrespectful. It was disrespectful to the characters. It was disrespectful to the tone of the series. And it's like, you can have jokey movies. Ant-Man, jokes everywhere. But you need to set up the pathos better, because that first half is nothing but jokes. And it's only been 2 fucking weeks.
Yeah,
since
here's the thing, like, because Nash brought up how you didn't like Thor Ragnarok. Here's the thing, I never thought that the jokes in Thor Ragnarok were too much, because, like, let's be honest here, that movie is jokes, like improv all over the place. But, like, then you look at the moments that you're actually, like, supposed to take seriously, like, like freaking Odin dying, and it's like, we see him die, and then what happens after? Like, we don't see, like, that entire scene, we don't get a joke. Like, we and immediately after what happens is, does Thor, like, make a joke about, like, how, and there he goes, he never even got to, like, and then crack some kind of stupid joke there. Like, no, what happens immediately after? Thor goes to fucking, like, try and bash the shit out of Loki. Like he of course would, because that's too much of an emotional scene for there to be a joke in that moment. And the next joke doesn't come until Hela goes on screen and she's like, so he finally died. That's a shame. I would have liked to see that myself, which makes sense because she's the villain.
Yeah, so like Thor Ragnarok at least understood the pathos and understood how these characters would react. I am convinced that 95% of these characters, outside of maybe Okoye and Sharon, are out of character, and I'll get to that. But, like, just the tone is so all over the place. You have to establish the pathos. Again, it's been 2 weeks since the zombie apocalypse. Everything's gone to shit, and they're already jaded.
Yeah.
And I don't mind zombie comedies. I love Zombieland. One of my favorites is Anna in the Apocalypse, recommended to me and shown to me by D. Amanda Hagen. It's a musical with zombies. It's hilarious. I love Shaun of the Dead. These work, but the difference here, in all of those movies, they still show emotion when somebody they know dies.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have that emotional connection. It cannot just be jokes. Unless it's been like centuries and they're just so jaded and tired of it that they've gotten away from it. But no, it's been 2 fucking weeks.
Yeah.
And it got me. I had to keep pausing this episode because from the moment that they introduced the introductory video, which is very much aping Zombieland. They're trying to be Zombieland. And Peter, that's disrespectful. Not just as Peter, but it's disrespectful to Peter's character because, yes, he jokes, but in Spider-Man, the whole point is he jokes to get away from the pathos, and he still brings him down with his own thoughts. If we got maybe some of his internal monologue, maybe I would be okay with it, but we don't get any of that.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, I'm Peter Parker, you're gonna die, it's a zombie apocalypse.
Remember in
so hateful.
Remember in Far From Home when freaking like Peter is swarmed by all the reporters asking, "Hey, who's gonna be are you gonna be the next Iron Man? Are you gonna be the next like leader of the Avengers?" And like he gets all overwhelmed that he like goes outside, he takes a breather, and like he's just mourning the death of his mentor. It's like, how is that more fucking effectful for him than like everyone he loves dying? And like, yeah, it's like you said, I absolutely do not believe that Peter would be this chipper after Uncle Ben's died, his parents have died, Tony's died, Aunt May has died, like most of the Avengers have died. We're in a zombie apocalypse. Like, I do not believe
every one of his father figures dies, and then even when Happy is transformed, he doesn't react.
It's like mild sadness. It's like mild sadness that Happy is dead now,
It's just, it gets me on a huge level, and that was the very first thing of it. Like, they set it up well, and then they get to the zombie apocalypse video, and I just noped out. Because the tone, what are you trying to convey? If you're trying to be a comedy, you can't just be jokes. Comedy is there to break the tension. It is not there to replace the tension. And that really got me, but what was worse was that the jokes got worse as things went on. Like, maybe I'm okay with Bucky saying, like, you've had enough, Cap, but he didn't react whatsoever. That
wasn't really a joke, though, like, to be fair. Like,
yeah, but, like, he didn't react to destroying Cap because that's his best and only friend at this point.
I'll agree with that.
Because Falcon and the Winter Soldier hadn't happened, and his reaction to Falcon does make sense. But then you have Spider-Man cracking jokes about horror movies to Okoye, which, Okoye's burn was really nice, but it doesn't fit the tone. And then you have the I got Sharon all over me bit,
that was the worst joke in the episode. That was It's honestly like, that was honestly like the peak of bad jokes. After that point, I don't really think that there was like too many others that were like honestly bad, because that was like, that was really bad.
Horrible.
That was horrible. It's like, it's like, oh, okay, so you have like this person who's like your friend, and you just go inside them to like fucking explode them from the inside because they're a zombie now. It's like, and you're gonna joke about that? Like, fuck right off. Like, it's not often that I agree with people who say like, oh, the MCU has too many jokes. It's just all jokes. And like, I don't often agree with that. I think the two times where I have agreed with that, because there are like some like smaller individual cases where I'm like, okay, that was maybe too far, but as an overall problem for like individual movies, I don't think it's been that big of an issue. The two times where I think that it did go overboard was in Far From Home in some bits, Actually, a bunch of bits in Far From Home. And then in this one. And it is far worse in this one than it is in Far From Home. Because Far From Home still at times knew where to keep the emotional investment. Whereas this is like, it doesn't know what to do until the second half of the fucking episode. And it's such emotional disconnect. Like, some of the jokes work. I really like the joke with Okoye, where it's like, do you guys just not have zombie movies in Wakanda? And it's like, no need. Like, we have American reality shows, and like that was funny. Like,
that was funny.
If we have have segmented jokes like that happen like every once in a while, I think it would be fine. Because one of the big things I've heard in defense of all the comedy in this episode was it brings levity to the depressing setting and all the emotional heartache. But to which I say, what emotional heartache? Because everyone's just joking. There is no drama. It feels like the characters aren't reacting to the fucking zombie apocalypse in the tone that they should. And if you want to do a dark comedy, go all the way with it. Make the entire episode out of character. Make the entire episode like all the characters being like jaded and asshole-ish. Like and preferably set it in the future.
But you have to earn it. You have to earn it. Like, it just... None of these characters are acting in character, except for Okoye, maybe Sharon, but then you have Happy just shouting blam with Tony Stark tech, and he's still shouting blam as a zombie, which is inconsistent because none of the other zombies have the ability to talk, but they seem to have the ability to use their powers. I know the stipulation in the comics was that they had their own personalities, but they were zombies.
Missed opportunity.
I think that missed opportunity, whatever, but it's wildly inconsistent. But even then, like Happy, I don't like how they portrayed Happy. Bucky is so wooden in his delivery and doesn't react to Cap.
Yeah, I want to actually.
There's also inconsistencies with Wasp shrinking down into Sharon when she becomes a zombie and somehow gets bitten. Like,
yeah.
What did she get slashed on?
I mean, that
doesn't make sense.
I don't think that's that bad because, like, you know, it's like, oh, she could have gotten a cut. It's convenient, but like, it's whatever. You know, there's some parts like
it's
that.
It's very plot convenient.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention, like, that you just brought up here is like Bucky's line delivery. This has been kind of a thing that's been ramping up with What If that we only really like talked about, I think, briefly with episode 1, but. Man, the voice work in this series is very hit or miss. Like, it's very 50-50 because, like, it's like characters like T'Challa, Scott, I think at the end of the episode was doing really good. Who else? Freaking Okoye was terrific. Killmonger in the second episode was great. There are characters in this series who sound great, and the voice work for them is phenomenal. Like in episode 4, the Doctor Strange episode, that episode was voiced magnificently. Benedict Cumberbatch, Tilda Swinton, Wong, like all of them sounded great. Like all the voice work there sounded phenomenal. But like, I think this episode...
T'Challa was perfect. T'Challa in every single episode is always perfect.
T'Challa is always fucking great in this series, like in terms of voice work. It really fucking makes me, miss Chadwick. But then we have characters like freaking... It's like Mark Ruffalo, Sebastian Stan. Like, I don't know what they're being directed... Like, I don't know how they're being directed, I should say. But they sound wooden.
They sound bored. To be honest, like it's not even like they sound like they're not in a zombie apocalypse. They sound like they're in a convenience store. And this is not a knock on these actors because I love Mark Ruffalo in the movies, and I loved Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's not a knock against the actors. I think that they either weren't directed well enough or they just aren't voice actors. Because from what I've seen, Bruce barely reacted to zombies, and he's supposed to be freaking out. He's like, guys, I think that's too much. Like, what?
Oh, guys, I think that.
Like,
oh God, I think I'm gonna be sick. Oh God,
that's a little bit. I think I'm gonna be sick. Like, that doesn't sound like someone who's freaking out. That sounds like someone who smelled something he didn't like. Like, it just
sounds like someone.
And then when he's like,
that sounds like
you had enough.
That sounds like someone who just
Like,
opens, that sounds like someone who opened his car door and found that the cat shat all over the driver's seat. Like.
And then when Bucky says, and I'm gonna try to make it worse because I don't think I quite did it justice before. It's like, Cap, I think you had enough. Like, there's not enough emotion in it. Like, think about it. Your best and only friend comes up to you as a zombie. You're forced to kill him, otherwise you and the rest of the people are gone. And yeah, he still has Winter Soldier in him, but he's been saved by Cap so many times, and he has no reaction. Like, this is a chance to use the animation to show him react to it and then say, Cap, I think you had enough.
Yeah, like,
show emotion in your lines.
That's a scene that's a scene that could have been like freaking top tier in this series in terms of like emotional scenes, especially like the final line he says where it's like, sorry Cap, it seems sorry Steve, like looks like this is the end of the line, and it's like that could have been one of the most emotional moments, and the voice delivery is
because it's a bookend to their entire journey.
Yeah, and it's like Sebastian Stan's acting in the first episode wasn't the best either, but like here it's especially noticeable, and it's like, damn man, it's like, damn man. But yeah, okay, to say one, okay, to go back to a positive thing, I did like the talk with Peter and Hope, and this is when we kind of get into the second half of the episode, and I do like the talk, and like, you know, it's not just because they fucking mentioned Uncle Ben, because yay, fucking finally, took us till Marvel Zombies, but we mentioned fucking Uncle Ben finally, and like, I say, because this spark, I'm not going to talk about it too much, because honestly, it's like, I'm over it, but like, this sparked like the whole discussion.
You're clearly not over it, baby. You're clearly not over it.
No, when I say I'm over it, I mean I'm over the freaking discourse, because like this sparked a whole another conversation. This sparked a whole other conversation on Twitter, which Spider-Man, I can't just say Spider-Man Twitter is fucking terrible. No one can respectfully.
Oh yeah, the takes are terrible. The takes are awful.
Yeah, it's like, because the one thing I see when people like me say, "Oh, I wish that we see more of Ben in the series," the one thing I always hear that I'm fucking sick of is, "Oh, so you just want the origin again? Like, we've seen the origin so many times. You just want the origin?" No, I don't want the origin again. Most people who want to see Ben in this series, or just not even just see him, but just hear about him, we don't want the origin again. It's just that Ben is such a pivotal part in Peter becoming the man who he is today, and to just get no mention of him at all is unbelievable for Peter Parker. And to just see that, you know, Ben probably didn't have that big of an impact on Peter in this universe, and it's implied that he did, but we just don't ever hear about it or see it. And this right here, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you don't even need to show Ben, but his name holds so much weight because of what he means to Peter. And this moment is exactly what I'm talking about. They use Uncle Ben's name to further impact Peter's character development, and you can use Ben in such good ways. Like, think back to Spider-Man PS4, where that was enough. We didn't even see Ben in that game, but what we got with him in that game was enough. It's like, you can visit his grave, and Peter's like, "Hey, Uncle Ben, you know, just trying to keep up the good fight." And at the end, spoilers, I guess, for Spider-Man PS4, but the moment at the end where May finds out that not finds out, but she reveals that she knows that Peter is Spider-Man, and he's like, "I never wanted you to worry," and May's like, "I did, but I'm so proud of you." And Ben would be too. That's what I'm talking about. Just more of that. I don't want the origin again. Just use Ben's name to full effect. And this moment, I think, was a good use of it. And despite the fact that I really didn't like the whole Peter being overly jovial in the first half of the episode. If they had scaled it down, then this moment would have just been perfect. Because I do like the justification they give for Peter trying to put on a smile, where it's like, he puts on this smile so that he can keep going, and so that he can keep inspiring people to like not lose hope, and so that he himself can like not lose hope himself. And I really like his connection to, ironically, hope in this episode. And I think that really, despite what happens in the first half of the episode, it is Peter's story here, where like he is basically the protagonist throughout the entire thing. I saw some people disappointed that we didn't really get to see the quote-unquote zombie hunter Peter Parker in this episode, but blame marketing for that. That's mainly a marketing thing. I don't blame the showrunners behind that.
Here's my thing. If it is Peter's episode, and I'm with you on this, the second half is entirely making it out to be Peter's episode. We needed private moments with Peter in the first half.
Agreed.
We needed to see him break down, to see that this is a facade. Like, have him privately by himself, like, God, what am I doing? And then, all right, time to put on a brave face, and then go out, then do the jokey things, because then we know it is an act.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know for half the episode, and it just feels disrespectful to the character. Spider-Man cracks jokes in the face of danger, but we always hear his internal monologue. Like, that's part of it. Spider-Man's life is misery, and that's why he cracks the jokes. That's the entire point of him cracking these jokes.
Yeah.
You have to have both points. You can't just not have that. It really upsets me. I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. I played every single one of like the PS2 games. I have I played through the PS4 one. I watched every single movie. I'm that person who actually likes Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. They both have good points.
The first one's grown on me, but I'll stand by the second one being the fucking worst Spider-Man movie.
I still disagree. Gwen Stacy scene, I think, was beautiful. But that's just me. But I know this character. I've read the comics as a kid. I know the deal of Spider-Man. I watched the animated series. This is not Spider-Man until the second half, and then he starts dialing it back. Then you kind of see it, and it's like the hope in the face of adversity. Yes, I get it. But where's the pathos? Where's the Parker to the Spider-Man? Aside from the Uncle Ben line and a little bit near the end, he doesn't break down enough. And it's just like, yeah, I'm not asking for it to be dreary and dull, or dull and dark gray. I'm asking for you to pick a tone and justify your tone.
Yeah. It's a rough one. It's a rough one. But I will say, because thinking about what we have left, and really we only have the end of the episode left to talk about, and one thing that me and you are actually on disagreements with in this episode with, or that sentence was grammatically incorrect. One episode, and I guess
we're all angry. I'm Angry Bunny today. I am angry Zen Bun.
One moment in this episode that me and you are actually like in disagreements with is what they did with Vision and Wanda, because Vision ends up coming in and he's like, hey, I've basically figured out how to cure people with the Mind Stone. And he cured Scott, who is now just a head. And his comedy, I think, is honestly like some of the only comedy in the episode that's like, okay, he's a head.
I get his comedy, because he's always been like that, but he's now just a head. And so, like, he makes dad jokes to cope. He even tells us his deal. That's all I'm asking. Like, that, I think, worked because everyone was cringing at the lines, but he's just like, I'm sorry, I did it again. It's just that sort of thing worked.
Yeah. And then we find out that basically Vision, similar to what Hank Pym was doing in the comics version of What If, he had been keeping T'Challa around so he could feed his body parts to Wanda, who he has locked up. And he's been luring people innocent people to their deaths in order to feed Wanda, because Wanda's a zombie and Vision can't cure her because her power is too great. A little bit convenient, but I can excuse it because I legitimately like this, and I know you don't, Zen, but like the reason why I really like this is because we saw the lengths to which Wanda would go for Vision in order to like get him back, and like in order to like to hold on to her past, like with Vision. And now we get an inverse of that, and people say, oh well, this is out of character with Vision. I don't think it is. Remember back to Infinity War, where Tony tells Bruce, like, Vision is changing, like he's becoming more than just an AI, like more than just someone who thinks about the good of mankind. He's become like an actual human himself, and as such he starts to have what else do humans have but selfish emotions and like their own personal desires. And like I think it's that element of Vision that's like started to creep up on him, and like in this moment what he thought would be best for humanity was overshadowed by his love for Wanda, and it led him to do these horrible things. And he knows that these things are horrible, and like he's not justifying them in the slightest, but it's just that aspect of him becoming more human that it's like, and that I think makes the moment work, and as a really good inverse of what's happened in the MCU proper with with Wanda losing Vision. And that's the one big highlight of the episode that I really love. And Wanda coming up and and like putting her hand over Vision's head, like that's it's like moments like that like is what has made What If so great. And I wish that there were more moments like that in this episode. But yeah, I really like that moment. I honestly just really fucking love it.
I'm sorry, but no. I hate everything about this. Vision is acting completely out of character. Yeah, he's becoming more of a human, but also, at the end of Infinity War, he sacrificed himself for the greater good.
He does here too, though.
Will you let me goddamn finish? I wasn't done. His sacrifice here sucks. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. But his sacrifice at the end for Wanda was so that they wouldn't get the Mind Stone. He would die. There was no other options. So that makes sense. And it was a noble sacrifice. But also the other thing you need to remember about Vision, he's able to wield fucking Mjolnir. He is worthy like Captain America. He has the traits of all these heroes put together. I don't think that Vision that I've seen throughout the entire movies would sit down and say, I love this woman, so I'm gonna feed her my best friend. Like, Black Panther is part of the Avengers. He feeds the Avengers to... No! I'm sorry, no matter how much you love someone, that does not compute. That is error 404, file not found. I do not like this. It is completely out of character for Vision, even if it's wrong. Even in WandaVision, when it wasn't really him, he still operated against Wanda. Because Wanda is the one with the selfish desires, and while he still loves her and will do anything for her, he wouldn't sacrifice others for that fact. It leads to good imagery, I'll give you that. But it doesn't make sense. And then also his sacrifice. Why is he pulling out the Mind Stone? Why is he not fighting back against Wanda? Why does he not go with them to make the cure in Wakanda? And then, if they find a cure, then cure Wanda. There's so many other things than just tearing out his Mind Stone.
Okay, I will admit that final part where, like, him just not going with them, yeah, that's, again, too many conveniences in this, like, it's too many, like, things that like that they just felt they needed to do in order to like get to the points where they wanted to be. And yeah, it didn't make sense for him to pull out the Mind Stone, but I'm sorry, I just can't agree, because like it's like, yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, I know what you're saying, Zen, about like, you just don't think that, the Vision who we see in the other movies would do something like this. But also, think of it like this. You can't save your loved one, okay? He can't save Wanda. He's tried to cure her. He can't cure her. If he doesn't do anything, Wanda is going to die. He can't just leave her starving, for like, and he's tried, like, that moment where he's like, she has not eaten in days. He's tried not to like lure people to her. Like, I'm not justifying Vision's actions. His actions are fucking horrible. They are horrible. But
I have a counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
What is grief but love persevering?
Yeah.
He understood.
But also
in
that
every other piece of media.
But also that understanding can break down when you are truly desperate. And like, again, and I'm sorry, but I do think that Vision becoming more human does play into this, because he said, what is grief if not love persevering? Like, he said that 2 years before that point where he didn't have as proper of an understanding of love as he does in that moment. And I don't doubt that Vision's mind would go to these places, if he saw he couldn't save Wanda, unless he tried to stall for time. And I'm sorry, but I honestly think that this moment really works. Out of character for Vision, maybe, but it's a point that I think he could get to realistically at this point, when like he is given no other option other than to sacrifice. But it's in this, it's easy to say, oh well, he can live Mjolnir. He's like, this, he's like this very powerful being, like who knows what's best for humanity. He should know better than this. But it's easy to say that when it's about like literally anything else other than the woman who he loves. And so I still really like this moment personally. I think it's a really good moment.
I can't get behind it. I think it's stupid. I think it's contrived, and I think it's out of character. And especially for the Avengers, like, if it had been a random person, maybe, just maybe, because he didn't have the connection to them. But the Avengers, like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. I like the ending, but also, this episode ends abruptly for me. Not gonna lie, it feels like half an episode. It feels like, the first half of a zombie movie where you get the hope, and then like you get to something, and then you get another hope. Like, in zombie movies, you have these roller coaster waves, and obviously, when everything's positive, something bad's gonna happen afterwards. This is clearly the middle of a zombie movie, and it ends.
Yeah.
And I'm not miffed too much, because I'm glad that it ends on a hopeful note. That's not my major problem. It's just that it ends with them flying off into the sunset. Bruce turns into the Hulk finally to fight Wanda, and they're left with a group of people with hope. And we have one of the best scenes where T'Challa's just like, you gotta keep on hoping, you gotta keep on trying. Like, it's a really good moment. But then we just cut to Thanos, who's a zombie, and end. And I'm just like, it doesn't feel like there's any build up to this ending.
I'll disagree with you there. I think that, like, at the end of this episode, we finally reach, the culmination of Peter's arc, and I think that signifies the end of the episode, because I honestly kind of like just ending the episode with zombie Thanos standing there. That's like a cool, like, oh shit, they're fucked. Like, kind of like...
How did it get off-world, though? That's like... Huh? How did the virus get off planet?
No, well, because Thanos is gonna come here. Right? I think it's because like Thanos came here to like get the Time Stone, and so because of that, he got the Time Stone. But like again, remember it was attached to Strange, so he was probably swamped by zombies.
I don't know. The timeline seems weird because Bruce was knocked down. when there were still zombies and we saw Doctor Strange. Unless he attacked earlier in this timeline, it doesn't make sense to me.
Alright. Well, I think we've said basically all we can. Zen, remember when you thought that talking about this episode wasn't going to be enough to fill an entire video? Like, I knew that we were going to have a lot to talk about with Marvel Zombies, which is why initially I was like, maybe we should just make this its own video. And I had a poll asking you guys, like, what should we have be a solo video? Because, like, because Marvel What If is, I don't know why I said Marvel's What If, well, not just What If, but, like, because What If Season 1 is 9 episodes, one of them is going to have to be done solo. And so I was contemplating, should we make it this episode, or should we make it the finale? Because I don't know how long we're going to be talking about the finale, whereas this one, I knew we were going to have a lot to talk about, and you didn't think so, Zen, but, like, we're here 40 minutes later, and we're still talking about this goddamn episode.
I didn't like this episode. Final thoughts on it. I think it's tonally all over the place. The jokes are in poor taste. Nearly everyone's out of characters. There's a bunch of plot points that are contrived and make no sense. And I've seen this done to death so many times. I am sick of zombies. And when you do something different with it, fine. I can enjoy zombie property. But this feels like it's taking all the cliched zombie movies and putting it to one. I'm over this. I hate it so much. It is probably the worst MCU thing that I have seen.
I didn't hate it nearly as much. I thought, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10, personally. I know you don't do scores, but I'm going to give it about a 4 out of 10 because there were things that I loved, that I truly did really fucking love about it. But, when I think about it overall, it's like I can't not say that this isn't a bad episode, because I honestly just think that there's too many things against it for me to call it good or even just average. But there were things about it that I did like. The whole WandaVision thing. I did like T'Challa's talk with Peter at the end. Peter's talk with Hope midway through the episode. There were things about it I really liked, but just through an inconsistent tone, poor acting in some parts of the episode, some contrivances here and there. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's the worst MCU thing I've seen, but it's down there. It really is down there. It's not a good episode. I didn't like it. And those are our final thoughts.
I don't think it's the worst thing ever, but I give it a roller gator stamp of disapproval.
And like, shit, where'd my train of thought go? We're going to be getting more zombie stuff in the future because they've already said that they want to make like a live action Marvel Zombies movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get like an animated series just based on the Marvel Zombies. And if they do so, I hope that they tap into the full potential of this idea, because Marvel Zombies, I know it doesn't have like, I know there's people who like don't like really like it all that much and have problems with it. I understand that, but Marvel Zombies has its own dedicated fan base for a reason, and it's not just because, edgy reality where everyone's a zombie and like, haha, Peter killed Mary Jane and Aunt May. It's like, no, people like it because, it has something to say, and like, it is an interesting idea, and they get all creative with it. And there are ways that you can do so, and I know, Zen, you're tired of it, but like, I honestly think that, if you're gonna do it, and, they probably should do it because there's a lot of potential there, do interesting things with it. Like, do the whole zombies talking thing. They didn't do that, and it's wasted potential. And I think that they absolutely should do that.
They half-heartedly did it with the Blam thing. Like, this feels half-baked. I want a fully baked pie. I don't want to eat salmonella.
But with that being said, let's try and not talk as in depth about the next episode. Well, okay. I say that mainly, like, half because I don't want this episode going too much longer than the other two What If videos, but also because, like, really, I don't even think I have too much to say about the next episode. So let's just jump into it. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? And just thoughts on, like, right from the get-go, I thought it was decent, but it is also very disappointing. What about you, Sen?
It is okay. Here's the problem with it. It is the reverse problem that I had with the previous episode. The first half I thought was really good, but the second half is just bringing back to Black Panther. There's not enough that's new to this, and a large problem with the episode is that, like, sure, it's a what if, but they end up in the same place in the middle of Black Panther, so really it's just half of it is Black Panther. And don't get me wrong, I love Black Panther, but what if should be about new scenarios. The start I really enjoyed because it was something different. He had this 4D game of chess playing, and I thought it would be him, like, you know, maybe changing because he's with Tony Stark. But no, he just betrays Tony Stark. He gets an army of drones, and then he uses that to attack Wakanda, but he saves Wakanda, so he's using his Black Ops to get in and burn down the thing. It's the only difference is that he's playing more 4D chess, and the plan itself is fine, but it's still... He winds up in the same position as last time, and we get a cliffhanger for a part 2, which, God, this is definitely, like... I thought the last one ended abruptly. This one just, like, smacks you in the face.
And going back and going and I did go back and watch, like, the mid-season trailer for What If, and we see Pepper with one of the weapons that, like, we see Tony and Killmonger with, and she's with the Dora Milaje. So they're absolutely following through with this in, like, the final episode, which I don't know if I like, because I think every other episode of the series, you know, they were able to leave, because we also do see in that trailer Ego corrupt, like, taking over freaking like Pete, like alternate universe Peter. So it's like, I think the other episodes had, like, quote unquote cliffhangers that made, like, that still left the story of that episode as, like, its own individual story, while still, like, leaving a little bit there for them to come back to in the finale. And it's like, I don't think that this episode really did that. I think that they really just... I think that they left it on too much of a cliffhanger, not allowing this story to be its own, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. It felt like we stopped right at the start of Act 3. And I completely agree with you, where I think that the second half of the episode, it was just, like, there was nothing different about Killmonger. Like, there was nothing new about Killmonger that I really saw in the episode. I really like the first half, because we get to see him,
but he still kills Claw. He still does, like, it's almost a carbon copy.
I really like the first half of the episode because can I just say, I've missed, like, Iron Man properties. You know, well, I guess we have Spider-Man, but I'm kidding. But you know, it's okay. I've really missed Iron Man. You know, just his trilogy movies, like that tone. I still love, and I still love watching those 3 movies, and we haven't really gotten anything like them in 8 years. And I'm really glad that we're getting not only Armor Wars, but also Ironheart. And I know some people think that it's kind of like, you know, oh, why are we getting both of them? You know, why are we getting 2 Iron Man things back to back? I'm honestly fine with it because, like, you know, I love the tone and, like, the storytelling of those Iron Man movies, and I can't wait to see them again. And I'm glad that we got that in, like, the first half of this episode. But that kind of brings me into my first main problem, is that they set up how, you know, Tony Stark becoming Iron Man was a big thing for him. And, you know, and it was not just a big thing for him, but it was a big thing for the universe. And it was so important for the universe. And they show, like, I am Iron Man from Endgame and him snapping his fingers. And then they really don't do anything with it, because at the end of the day, this isn't an Iron Man story. It's a Killmonger story. And I'm fine with that. Just, you know, frame it as such, because, like, why would you go out of your way to, like, focus this heavily on Tony Stark and, like, make this an Iron Man, like, you know, centered plot, like, and, like, the whole, like, oh, you know, what if Iron Man never, or what if Tony Stark never became Iron Man? And then you just turn around and you're like, nah, it's gonna be about Killmonger. And it's like, I'm fine with that, but, like, you know, why wouldn't you frame it as just purely, like, a Killmonger story? And two, like you said, there really isn't that much of a change. Like, it's, you know, because you go back to episode 1, where it's like, it's a carbon copy of you know, the first Avenger with minor things changed. And we haven't really had that since that episode until this one, where, you know, we get it, where the second, granted, it's only in the second half, but the second half feels too much like, you know, it's just, you know, going through Killmonger's arc again. And I thought we were going to get something like, okay, because he's doing this whole like 4D chess thing, where like he's mapping out everything and like, you know, and he's taking advantage of both sides, he's playing with both sides. It's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, I think this is either going to come out like in one of two ways. Either A, Killmonger is going to take over all of Wakanda and accomplish his goal, kind of like Loki did in episode 3, or B, he's somehow gonna have a change of heart and someone else is gonna become the villain and we're gonna get a good guy Killmonger. But and neither of those happen.
I would have preferred that. I would have preferred that, because even if you're not gonna make this a Tony Stark story, don't kill off Tony Stark like that. That was you wasted so much potential of Tony getting out, rising from the ashes, and fighting back against Killmonger to make sense with how the stories interchange. Otherwise, it feels like two disconnected parts.
Yeah, I don't think they should have killed Tony. Like, he absolutely should have been like a factor in that second half of that episode. Like, I still think that they should have framed it solely around Killmonger, because Tony, you know, because again, it's wasted potential to just like bring up the whole thing of what if the world didn't have Iron Man and then do nothing with it. But at the very least, one thing that would have softened that blow is if you had just had Tony throughout the entire episode. Whereas the second half really just felt like this is a Black Panther episode, which again is fine, but it just kind of makes it so that like, oh, Tony being here doesn't really matter. And so like...
And it's like, they killed Rhodey and they killed T'Challa, but there doesn't seem to be as big a reaction to that. Yeah, Tony's drinking, but, like, aside from that, like, their deaths don't mean as much as they should. And I'm sorry, but him just standing there and waiting for Killmonger to come in and just allowing him the chance to attack, that's not Tony's best plan.
Not a great plan. You know, to give...
My plan is great.
To give Civil War 2 some credit, you know, to give Civil 2, because I was just rereading some issues the other day, for no particular reason at all. But I was rereading. I reread the first issue, and it's like, if you haven't read Civil War 2, essentially the whole event starts with, you know, the heroes trying to do a sneak attack on Thanos, and they eventually manage to subdue and capture him, but not before She-Hulk is put into a coma and Rhodey is killed by Thanos. And Tony's reaction is like, not subdued. He goes like full on like, what the fuck? Why would you? And he goes...
Rhodey is his best friend.
He storms the Carol. He's like, how the fuck would you... Like, how could you let him go and do that? Like, why would you... Like, how could you, like, lose him? It's like, he like, loses it because Rhodey's just that close to him. So it's like, why would he be that subdued? It's not my biggest issue with the episode, but...
Compare this to friggin' Captain America Civil War, which ends with him crippled, and that gets him going. Like, that's the entire... Like, that's a big thing, you know? Like, Tony and Rhodey are really fucking close. It's just, he's just sitting there drinking. And even Iron Man 1, Tony, he still went through the PTSD a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like
he
this
still got shot at.
I feel like this would have been a good
weapons.
way. I feel like this would have been a good way to like weave Tony more into the second half of the episode, where instead of, you know, him just immediately going like against Killmonger and like trying to kill him, it's like he drinks away his sorrows because like, oh my god, I just lost my best friend, and then he figures out that Killmonger was the one who set everything up, and then that can lead to Tony, you know, going up against Killmonger at the end of the episode and like playing more of a part, or at least like, you know, something. It's like, it just feels it doesn't
feels
feel
half-baked,
right. It feels
again.
half-baked, yeah. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I like
Both
moments
of
in
these
this episode. Like I like T'Challa speaking to Killmonger. I like, all that stuff in the episode. But like, when I really look at it overall, I'm like, what did I gain from this episode? That like, because when I look at the other episodes, what did I gain about T'Challa in the second episode? Well, I think it, expanded upon his character of like, because we see how kind and like, and we see how kind T'Challa is about bringing everyone together. And I got that in the second episode in this new way of him bringing the Ravagers together, of him like redeeming Thanos in a sense. And like, I got that story out of T'Challa in that episode in that new way. It's like, what do the Avengers really mean to the world? Well, in the third episode, it's like we see that even if the Avengers we know didn't band together, there will always remain hope in the world, which we see at the end of the episode with Nick bringing Captain Marvel together and like still having Steve on his hands. Like, there's always going to be hope in the world, even if it comes in like in the most minor of ways. What did I gain from Doctor Strange in the fourth episode? It's like we saw, because in the movies we see how self-absorbed Strange is about his work, and like we see how that can turn out positively, but we see in that like in the fourth episode how that could turn out negatively as well, and like how just the smallest and how like the smallest thing, like losing someone that he loves, how that could negatively affect him. Like I get, we take a look at the core of these characters and we get, and we get like, the general themes and the ideas of these characters in new ways from these different episodes. What did we get with Killmonger in this episode? We got essentially, at the end of the day, the same thing we got in Black Panther, where
there are things that I like. There are things that I do like. I think the animation's still fantastic. I think that his interactions with Rhodey was great. My quarrel is not with you. Good job. Like they do a good job with Black Panther. They do a good job when they show Killmonger talking with his uncle. Mm-hmm. But not enough is done, and it's just like these past two episodes. Half the time it feels like it doesn't fully get these characters. The other half of the time they don't go fully with their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry I've been an angry bun today. I'm bitey bun today. I'm sorry, but like we have one okay episode with problems and like a good first half that just squanders a lot of its potential, and they have an episode that nothing worked about it aside from like some things that were just like okay, but it still doesn't excuse a lot of the episodes. So it's like I can't in good conscience recommend either of these episodes. Like the second episode, not second episode, the Killmonger episode is okay. It's nothing to write home about, but it doesn't feel like a full episode, and until we see the second half, I won't be able to recommend it, and that flies in the face of What If.
Yeah.
Even episode 1 with Captain Carter,
mm-hmm.
even that has kind of a standalone story,
mm-hmm. And
it's a weaker episode, but it does what it has to do to be a standalone episode.
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, it's very much been 50-50 with this series so far, and I'm hoping that by the end of season 1, we end up with more hits than misses. Because I do really love episodes 2, 3, and 4. They are so fucking good. And like, I was talking about how like in the first of these videos, how like episode 2 put my mind at ease in terms of like my worries for this series. And now with these 2 episodes, it just felt like my worries have come back, and and we just got them in full force. And I'm hoping what we get with Party Thor and whatever they're doing with Ultron and etc., I hope that what they're doing there ends up, being interesting and telling the stories of these characters in new ways and not just the same ways as in episode like 1 and 6.
Or worse ways, or like I want them to try to explore new things But, like, half of these episodes I love. And the other half, I could take or leave, or I just want to burn. Like, there's just...
And part of this is the issue with What If. Like, part of this is the issue, because, like, you're going to get some episodes, because everything's all standalone episodes, you know, like, you're going to get some hits, you're going to get some misses, but, like, I feel like that's no excuse for, like, just having a consistently, like, good, like, variety of episodes. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think that episodes 1 and 6 really diversify those stories as much as they should have, and I don't think episode 5 was, like, tonally all there. I think that that really needed a second, third,
episode
maybe fourth.
5 sucked.
Like episode
Excuse me, I'm gonna take another sip of my vodka.
I think that really needed a second, third, maybe fourth, fifth draft. Like, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I still have hope for the rest of the series and season 2 when that eventually comes out. It's like, you know, I do really like this show, and I love episodes 2, 3, and 4. It's just that I also didn't get my rating for episode 6. I want to give it a 6, but, like, I'm leaning more towards 5 because, I don't know, man. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like...
I give it a stamp of just...
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Like, it's not quite meh. I got enjoyment out of the first half, but it squanders a lot of it, so it's just... okay.
Yeah. And... yeah, it's like, I'm sorry this is more of a downer video. It's just that, like, you know, this is the first time with Phase 4. Okay, it's not the first time with Phase 4 because, like, Black Widow, but we'll get to that very soon because it'll be on Disney Plus very soon. But it's like aside from Black Widow, it's the first time with, like, the shows that I've really felt that, okay, this is a pretty big misstep. Like, you know, it's episode 1 was just fine, but, like, this is like, okay, this is going in a direction that I don't think that What If should be going in, and I hope that we get some more fun times with the next 2 episodes, and then the finale, and then, of course, season 2, and yada yada. But yeah, sorry for the more negative video, guys. Hawkeye was great. The Hawkeye trailer was really fucking good. Can't wait for that series.
Look, I have to be honest. I am honest with my opinions, and if I said that, you know, Marvel Zombies was good, I would be lying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's my feeling that this is disrespectful to these characters, to me, to the audience who cares about these characters. Episode 5 is just really, really that bad. And after having seen Shang-Chi and what can be done with people who care about characters, and after seeing episodes 2 through 4 of What If, it just feels like a slap in the face, and then they drop the ball in episode 6. It's like, I don't want to be negative. I'm not normally a negative Bond, but I'm gonna call out bad things when I see it. And you know, I don't make videos just to yell, but I'm sorry, most of this does not work for me. It really doesn't, and maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe the tonal stuff is partially me, but as a film major and a theater minor, someone who studied the mechanics of film, this does not work.
I agree. I completely agree with that. But with that being said, hopefully next time it's a much more positive episode. I can't wait to see what the whole deal with Party Thor is, and what the second to last episode is even going to be, because, like, I've seen, because on promotional material for this, we've seen, like, that Thanos-looking Gamora, like, where it's just Gamora in Thanos' armor, and we've also seen, like, the Ultron-looking Vision. It makes me think, like, what the remainder, because we only have, like, 3 more episodes, and one of them's Party Thor, and then what's the other 2 going to even be? Like, what's going to be, like, that final episode which bridges everything together? It's like, I have no idea. I can't wait to, like, see what they do. I'm still very much invested in the series. Don't think I'm not invested, because, you know, one episode may suck.
I still love the series. I still love the series. Like, having half of it be stuff that I don't really care for doesn't detract. It's just a problem with What If, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All I'm just saying is I'm an Angie bun. I'm sorry. I'll break my carrots and put them back together.
But with that being said, we will see you guys in about 2 weeks. Hopefully not as close to the fucking episode as we did with this time. But yeah, we'll see you guys very soon for episodes 7 and 8 of What If. And then after that, we just have the finale. And that'll be it for What If until the season 1 review, which we won't be doing for quite a while like we usually do. But with that being said, I'm Philip.
I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the angiest of buns today.
And we will see you guys very, very soon. Have a good... I messed up the outro. Have a good one, everybody.